Our third speaker, and last but not least, is Nat Mayot, a passionate speaking coach, educator, TEDx and TED Ed organizer who empowers students and adults to speak with clarity and confidence. With over 30 years of experience as both a teacher and a parent, Nat bridges the gap between home and school through insight, empathy, and practical tools. In her session, Bridging the Gap, Accountability in Parent, Teacher, Student Communication, Nat will explore how parents and teachers can take shared responsibility for clearer, more compassionate communication and learn practical strategies to improve trust, collaboration, and student outcomes. Everyone, please welcome Nat Mayot. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Maria, for that warm welcome. And I just want to thank this summit to giving us this opportunity, Dr. Anani, to Leah and I, for sharing our insights and sharing our experiences. I think that a platform like this is what we need. And the theme so far I've seen today is change. Anybody agree with me that change is the theme? And it really is going to have to start from the foundation. And Leah said something really interesting at the beginning of her talk, that parents are the first teachers to their kids. And that made me think she's right. And there's no manual when we become a parent. No manual. They let you take this little bundle of joy home and they do not allow you. They don't give you any instructions. And unfortunately, though, we use our instincts, we use our intuition to make that happen, to help them. And today, I really, really am happy to be sharing in this summit. I want to bring change to the paradigm of teachers and parents because I wear both hats. And because I work in a school system here in the Dominican Republic, I'm seeing things quite differently. We all have a stake in this. We all want to be better, just not parents and teachers, but we want to be better people. And it really comes down to one word. And it's such a hard word to say sometimes because being accountable means that you have to take responsibility for what you say and what actions you are taking. And a few weeks ago, Maria was so kind and she hopped on a Zoom call with me or a meeting call, and we recorded that. And we talked about accountability. We talked about how important it was for parents and teachers equally to be accountable because who is watching us? Our kids are. They are watching us. We are the role models for these kids. So we have to be different. And, it takes me to a moment I spoke to the director of my daughter's school one day. I had planned the first TED Ed event at her school, and I had been messaging parents. I had been composing these wonderful emails. You know, those emails I'm talking about, teachers, right? You take time, you compose. And then I have parents saying to me, "Oh, I didn't know this was happening." And I thought, how can that be? How can you not know that your child is participating in this massive speaking event and you weren't aware of it? And he made a point to ask me, like, do you sit down with your daughter every day, every evening and have dinner? I said, yeah, we do actually. And he says, but most parents don't. Their time restrictions, their busy work, activities don't allow all families to sit down together every night. And that really got me thinking that I, as the teacher of this event, had to change the way I had to communicate. So we went from email to WhatsApp, and let me tell you, it made such a difference. Parents were with me 100% of the way when I did the second round. So one of the things I want to make clear today is that this is not about blame. No one is doing anything wrong. I think that we just need to think about how we can do it differently. As a speaking coach, I often have to give feedback to my students or to my clients, and it's always about what did you like about what you did, but how can you do it better next time? And these situations come up every time. So we can head on over to the next slide. It was already mentioned today, we live in a world that is so fast-paced that things never stop. I don't know how many activities your children are in, We have one daughter and she does one activity and that's it. Our household only is allotted one activity a day and sometimes only one activity on the weekend because we want to have a good pace. This is something that we have chosen. So after full day of school, there's after school activities. In some cases, there's homework, family time. You want to have personal time. You are needing to juggle all of this. And that's where the conversations drop in between, right into the cracks. And that's when the blame game starts. And when parents don't know what's happening at school, what happens? Assumptions, right? And I can't say it here, but if you say you assume, you are making a something out of you and me. Put the puzzle together. And we don't want teachers feeling that blame, and we don't want the parents feeling it either. Because if parents are feeling like they're not being heard, guess what? The teachers are also feeling like they're not heard. They feel like that they're sending messages to parents and they're not getting them, just the way I did. But if we don't change the way we do things, it's not going to be different. So one of the things here on the island that I really appreciate in the way that the teachers communicate with us is that we get a weekly letter telling us all the things they did during the week and the highlights. And sometimes they actually highlight the students, depending on what that student done. We also have a Facebook page, and that Facebook page gives us such insight on what the students are doing every day. This is part of the accountability. The teachers are letting us know as parents what is going on. They are making that commitment. So today, I really want us to make that commitment together as a parent and as a teacher, whether you wear both hats or just one of them, see how we can do it differently so that we can feel good about what we have to communicate. Let's go, Dar. So I mentioned it before, and this is something I talk about with my swimming buddy. You know, we talk about responsibility sometimes in the morning, how we have to take responsibility for things. And it really isn't about that idea of pointing a finger. It's that we all have roles. When I'm teaching in a class and I'm teaching about this whole idea of presenting, I say to my students, when you are presenting, you have a role, right? My role is to make sure you are engaged. I have to make sure that the information is getting transferred. But as the audience, what is your role? Your role is to listen, ask questions, wonder, be curious about it. So those are all pieces of the puzzle. But parents, students, and teachers, we are all one puzzle. And as long as we come together, that piece will be whole and it will be complete. So that completion will allow for fluidity and great communication. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen all the time. And there's a really great quote, and I wish if you can take one thing away today, I would love you to write this down. Whatever you are not changing, you are choosing. I'm going to say it again. Whatever you are not changing, you are choosing. So if you are not changing the way that you're communicating, or you're not asking for that communication, you are just staying in the status quo. And this can apply to many facets of your life, but today I'm just asking you to consider it for this topic. If you are checking out before even checking in to what's going on in your son or daughter's classroom, then that's a choice that you made. But as a teacher, if you too are not stepping forward to make sure that that communication is done, you are also choosing. So again, let's change so we can choose differently. Let's go, Dar. You know, every presenter today, I'm sure, wanted to make sure that they were seen and heard and understood, including myself. But the same thing applies to our parents and to the teachers and to the students. And I'm looking forward to finding out at the end of the presentation your take on all this, if you are being seen and heard and understood. And our daughter uses an online math program for math, which I don't love. And one day I walked into the school office and said to the leaders that were sitting there, I'm really having a hard time with this. She's not moving forward in her percentages. What can I do? And I was told, oh, she just has to watch the videos. And it literally was like one of these. It was the first time as a parent that it hurt here. It hit my core that I was not heard, that I was coming to them for help, and that the answer was my daughter had to watch the videos and she would figure it out. Our kids are the most precious things in our lives. We want to know that they're supported every minute that they're away from us. And, Dr. Anani talked about, the system, and you all brought up great points about things have to change. And this is part of the conversation, is that we need to make sure that the systems start changing so that these things are seamless. When it comes to students, giving them space to communicate will make such a difference in your classroom. And I know most teachers are doing this. There's no doubt about that. But students who have a big voice, like some of us, can be heard, but the ones with the quieter voices, we have to give them space as well. And every time I teach, there's one thing I say to them. They put their hand up and I'm speaking, I'm in the middle of my lesson. I stop, I look at them and I say, I see you and I want to hear you. Please just let me finish what I'm saying. And I always go back to them. It is crucial to go back to them. Because when the communication starts breaking down, that's when all the assumptions start filling in. And it's like mortar, it just fills in. And then what happens is the trust is broken. And it's really hard to come back from that trust. It's really hard to come back from that. So what are some of the common breakdowns? When the messages are only going one way, it is not a one-way street. And most of the time, communication is only happening with parents or with teachers when there's a problem. Wouldn't it be great if we were sharing all the good things? It's like the news. I don't want to get all, political or anything like that, but when you go and you turn on the TV and you listen to the news, I'm going to say 9.5 times out of 10, most of the news that's reported is negative. Imagine if they led with the fun, happy stories, how it could be different. So if messages are only going one way, like newsletters and app updates, and we're not creating that space for dialogue and being open to the dialogue, that's where the one of the breakdowns will happen. And then what happens is guilt sets in. Guilt sets in from a parent because they're not doing enough communicating or they're not aware of what's going on in the classroom. The teacher also feels bad because they're not reaching out because they're so busy. Teachers have a huge responsibility. They have a curriculum that they need to follow. And this is where, Dr. Anani talked about how it needs to change. When a teacher is tied to a curriculum that they must deliver in order for the student to get the grade that they need to get to the next level, sometimes they get wrapped up in that. And I've seen it with my own eyes that teachers, they'll say to me, oh, my students are going to do a presentation. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. What did you teach them about giving the presentation? And they're like, oh, I didn't do that. I gave them the piece of paper. We have to give them the tools so that they can create. We have to give the teachers the space to do that. So the curriculum has to change. And one of the things to keep in mind of is that we live in a digital world now. So communicating is so much different. There's no more written notes well, I don't think there's any written notes and agendas going home anymore. But it happens that, everybody's texting, or they're sending emails. Emails get lost. If you're in a situation where you receive 100 to 200 emails a day, chances are, as a parent, you might miss that one from a teacher. So we need to find different ways to do that. Okay, Dar, thanks for following along. So in this whole shared responsibility, I would love you to consider a few things for, as a parent. You know what? A teacher would love a check-in. They would love you to be curious, but not criticizing all the time. Ask them about what they're doing. Ask them if they need help. And I know that one of the participants mentioned that, and I think it's fantastic. And all parents seem to get on board. I know that we're busy, but that one little thing will make a huge difference for a teacher, even for myself, who's just a part-time teacher. And make sure that everything's positive. You know, when we start doing the pointing, the you, why did you, as opposed to, can you help me understand why this is working this way? It makes a difference. Teachers, anytime you can put a light on a student, do it. I'm only a part-time teacher, so I see my students 1 day a week, but I'm in a community. So anytime I meet a parent, I'm like, oh my gosh, this week in my class, your son, your daughter, they did this. They broke out of their shell a little. They stepped forward. They spoke up a little bit. Parents love that stuff. I was going to use a bad word, but they love that stuff. So share, share, share. And also use plain language. And I'm going to tell you why. When you are using educational terms, for example, a talk competency, that might be really hard for somebody who is new in your school and English is their second language. We don't think about it because we talk that way all the time. So consider who you're speaking to. Is it a new parent? Is it an immigrant parent? Is it a parent that maybe doesn't speak the language at all? That happens in our school. We have students who don't speak English or Spanish. So we have to find different ways to communicate with them. And what happens for the students is that when they see all of this happening, it is encouraging them to speak up. It's teaching them that parents and teachers can work together. And all of these small actions create this massive change. It are small steps that we need to take to make this happen. Next up. Now, originally I had a triangle here like this, but I felt like it was a bit rigid. And, the teachers and the parents and the students are on this triangle, but I want to create fluidity today. I want us to really work together. And I know that in that triangle, if one of the sides breaks down, that's when things get weak. So think of this as a fluid circle that we're just constantly working together, going from teachers to students and students to parents and parents to teachers, so that we can aim for more balance and strength in all of these relationships. And you just do that with an open heart and a sharing heart, you cannot be successful. So here we are, we're on the same team. That's what it boils down to. There's no them and there's no us and them. That does not exist. It is all about us. And you have to remember that you can be perfectly imperfect. It doesn't have to be perfect when you communicate. Even as a speaking coach, sometimes I have to think about, how am I going to say this? How am I going to communicate my message to say it well? That's one of my core foundations in my business. Communicate clearly, speak with confidence, and say what you have to say and say it well. But the most important thing is be intentional, not perfect. We all make mistakes. And there is no I in team. So perspective is really important. Okay. We're not on opposite sides. We want the same thing for those students. As parents and teachers, we want them to succeed. It is our job to make sure we work together so that they succeed. So what do you do now? We've given you all this information today. It takes 21 days to create a new habit. 21 days. It took 1 day for me to start swimming in our pool, and 2 and 3 and so on. And now I do not miss a day unless the water's green. But all this to say that it's a new habit. So if it's just, you need to communicate with one parent once a day, one parent a day, and go through your rotation, then you got it covered. Most classes have more than 21 kids anyways. If you're a parent or a teacher, send a positive message. Let them know that you are so thrilled with what's going on. I'm a big fan of baking, so I bake for my teachers. Ask questions, be curious. If you don't understand something, it's your job to find out how you can be of service or understand more. Um, you know, if you want to create a new habit, maybe it's a Monday morning check-in email. How's my son doing? How's my daughter doing? If texting is allowed between students, I mean, parents and teachers, maybe that can work too. All it is, it's one question, one message, one new habit, and that's how the momentum will be built. Will build. You will see it happen automatically. It's not a you or men. At the end of the day, the accountability will fuel trust between you and the other party. The collaboration will come instantly, and you will be part of the puzzle. Our students will win when you are collaborating with one another. It's been so great being here. I have this 5-minute fix to boost this is for teens, but it could be for any age student. There's a PDF or an MP4 that's available to you. The link will probably be shared either in the chat or in a follow-up email. But these are just some fun activities that create connection with your child after school or during dinner time. And it's something I just put together a few weeks ago. So I'm offering this out to anybody. Thank you so much for your attention and listening. And I look forward to hearing what you have to say about accountability and how we can do better.
Are there any questions for Nat? Please feel free to raise your virtual hand.
Maria says, Nat's quote, anything you are not changing, you are choosing. Oh my gosh. I saw that on YouTube the other day and it literally blew me away. And I use it all the time now and it fuels a lot of parts of my body. So lots of part of my life. Denise, nice to meet you. I can't hear you, Denise. Sorry, yeah.
There we go. Thank you so much. And yeah, that